2016 Obama's America. We normally don't. We try to stay out of politics because honestly, I'll get angry. Scott will walk away, and Brian will. He's got a Confederate flag somewhere. So, but before we get to what I thought about 2016 Obama's America, I thought I'd have a really bad impersonation of Obama himself tell you what the movie's about.
Oh, God.
My fellow Americans, it has come to my attention that Dinesh D'Souza has made a documentary about me. He has decided to inform the American people about my anti-colonial ties. He thinks I don't care about the American people. Dinesh wants to show you Americans that everything I am is because of my father. Well, I'm here to tell you, he's wrong. Dinesh doesn't know me any more than he knows your family. He just hopes to. He hopes to change your mind about me. He'll throw out a few facts and a lot of conjecture. What you decide is up to you, America. Do you want to believe this crazy Indian import? Or me, Barack Obama, the President of the United States of Canada? America. You decide. I hope you don't change your mind about me. Aaron, why don't you tell the American people what you thought about this film? I'm going to go over here, play some Rick James, and hopefully convince all of you what a cool black man I truly am.
It's like a fast-talking Dr. Phil.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
All right, well, before I review the movie, I think we should be, since it is a very political movie, you can't really deny that. I should be very clear on what my politics are. I am I'm not going to go into them ad nauseum. I'm a moderate. People say pick a side. I say no. I like to think for myself. I don't care for many of Obama's policies, but I think he's a very good and decent man. So, fair enough? And I know where I stand. I'm not a hater, not a lover. I didn't want to see this movie because I don't like propaganda at all. Fahrenheit 9/11 I thought was entertaining, but it's a prime example. I loathed Bush, but it's really hard for me to take that film seriously because the whole thing is so slanted. He has an agenda the entire movie. It's hard to say, well, this is an unbiased film because your whole point is to make me hate him. Mm-hmm. This movie, 2016 was getting a lot of traction, so I said, okay, fine, I'll go see it. Because some people were telling me it's a fair look at the president. That's what I heard people say. It's not. It's a very slanted movie, just like Fahrenheit 9/11 was. There's a lot of truth in here, and I agree with much of what Dinesh has to say on some issues. The things I agree with, I do think you cannot discount Obama's past allegiances and the friends he's kept to say how he feels America should look. But I also think it's insane to make some of the leaps that Dinesh makes in the film because of those associations. Mm-hmm. He basically, the whole film tries to paint Obama as a radical, which I don't agree with some of his policies, and I think he might lean a certain way, but I don't think he's a radical. I won't go into every theory in the film because it would take way too long. But the primary one is that Dinesh provides his version of evidence to the theory that Obama is a crusading anti-colonialist because that is what his father wanted. Essentially, Dinesh thinks that Obama wants the top 1% to take care of everyone else on a global scale. So basically, affirmative action for the entire world. That's basically what anti-colonialism is. He wants the top 1% to take care of everybody. He wants to level the playing field. If he just stuck with facts and steered the ship that way, the film could have been very, very powerful. I believe that. But instead, it seems like about two-thirds of the way through the movie, the whole thing just changes. Dinesh begins to subtly attack Obama, and the whole thing becomes a giant campaign ad for Romney, or whoever won the nomination. So I was with him up until this point, but because he was presenting facts, and he was making informed opinions up to that point. Then he started digressing into what his psychological analysis BS was of the stuff that he had presented already. So he's trying to say, well, because of this and because of this, that's why he thinks that. But he has no real evidence to support that. It's his opinion. I don't want to see a movie full of opinions. I can get that shit on Fox News or CNN. I wanted to see a documentary where you present facts and I establish my own opinion. That's what happens the first two-thirds of the movie, stops happening, and then for the last third becomes a campaign ad. So I'm telling you, if I already don't like Obama's policies, I agree with several points in the film. I do feel Obama has damaged our deficit more than Bush, leans a little too close to socialism, and still tell you this movie is skewed fluff. I think you should take my word for it. You're not going to feel any different about Obama than you did before you walked into that theater. If you were a fan walking in, you're going to feel reaffirmed about being a fan. If you're a hater, you're going to hate him some more. That's really all the movie does. And I cannot condone nor encourage people to see something that evolves into a psychological attack on a sitting U.S. president. I think it's wrong. Do I understand it? Sure. I thought Fahrenheit 9/11 was really entertaining. Really poor idea to make because it's so far out there. And I think this also so far out there. Facts, I'm all for. I'll watch that any day. But this loose psychological crap, it's just not fair enough. I just couldn't buy it. So if $10 is the full price of admission, this one's worth $4.
Wow.
Do you guys have questions about it? Anything?
Not even one.
Well, you hate politics. Brian, do you have questions about it?
Well, you pretty much answered it. What I was curious about was how skewed it was. How obvious is it to see that it's somebody with an agenda that's making it? Much like the Michael Moore, just about every Michael Moore movie. Mm-hmm. Some of them are, like you say, some of them are entertaining, but you can't watch that and take that as complete truth.
No, you can't. You have to remember that throughout the whole film.
You just, because everything's kind of cut in there and put in there in a certain way to give you certain thoughts about whoever the subject is. So
the real sad part is Dinesh is an intellectual. He really is an intellectual. I mean, he's a very established person. You can look up his credentials. He's Dinesh D'Souza. He's an established philosopher, theoretical, whatever he is. He's a very smart guy. He went to Dartmouth College. I mean, he's a smart guy, and he presents himself much better than, say, a Michael Moore does, because Michael Moore is so loudmouth and rambunctious and in your face. You know what I mean? D'Souza doesn't do that. He's very calm. He's very sweet, well mannered. I mean, he seems like a very nice guy. More people would appreciate his point of view if he didn't spend the last third of the movie ramming it down your throat with what his opinion is. Mm-hmm. Because the first 2/3, I honestly would say that I felt like, okay, now you're getting me on board to what your theory is. I kind of see where you're going. All right, I agree with, because there's certain things I agree with that. I agree with that. I agree with that. And I'm not going to go into what I agree and don't agree with, because then people hate the show because we're being political, and I don't want to be that. Email me, I'll tell you. But then the last third, it just goes into Michael Moore territory. He doesn't get any louder. He doesn't get louder and rambunctious, but just he definitely goes for his point of view of the last third of the movie and ramming it down our throats. And that turned me off completely. The people that are saying that this is a fair representation and, now you're going to get to know Obama much better. You really don't. I mean, he spends so much time trying to connect who his father was to who he is that it's just disturbing. It's really disturbing because, and I understand that because I come from a person, I didn't have my father around when I was growing up. So I understand what it's like to try to aspire to what you think your father would want you to be. But I also know how that feels, and what he's saying isn't psychologically accurate. I don't buy it. I think he's making some giant leaps.
Do you wonder if President Obama went to the theater and saw this?
Hell no, he didn't go see it. He's too busy doing our fucking podcast. Didn't you hear?
He's still sitting over there in the corner.
He is. What's up, Bo?